The alien queen asked why I avoid her daughter. My answer left her speechless. The human arrived on the alien world as part of a peaceful exchange program. He was not a soldier or a ruler. He was an engineer and mediator, chosen because he listened more than he spoke. The alien empire was old, powerful, and proud, ruled by a queen whose words shaped entire star systems. Her palace stood like a living mountain of light and crystal, watched over by silent guards with eyes that missed nothing. From the first day, the human followed every rule. He bowed when required, spoke carefully, and never overstepped. Many aliens found humans loud and impatient, but this one was different. He worked long hours repairing systems, advising councils, and helping younger scholars understand human logic. Slowly, respect grew around him, but there was one thing everyone noticed. He avoided the queen's daughter. The princess was known throughout the empire. She was intelligent, curious, and kind, but also lonely. From childhood, she had been raised under constant watch. Every step she took was planned. Every word she spoke was measured. Many nobles tried to impress her, hoping for favor or power. Others feared her position and kept distance. The human did neither. When the princess entered a hall, he would step aside. When she spoke, he answered politely but briefly. When others pushed him closer, he found reasons to leave. He never insulted her. He never showed fear. But he never stayed. At first, the court found it strange. Then they found it suspicious. Some whispered that the human believed himself above royalty. Others claimed he was hiding a secret hatred. A few said he feared bonding laws between species. Rumors moved faster than truth in the palace halls. The princess noticed everything. She was not foolish. She saw how others watched her, how their smiles were sharp and hungry. With the human, it was different. His eyes did not linger. He did not change his voice when speaking to her. When she laughed, he smiled softly, then looked away as if giving her space. That confused her more than rejection ever could. One evening, during a grand gathering meant to celebrate peace between worlds, the tension finally broke. The hall was filled with light and sound. Nobles from many systems stood in long lines. Music floated through the air like slow waves. The human stood near a column, as usual, quiet and observant. The princess was seated beside the queen. The queen watched everything. She had ruled for decades and learned to read silence better than speech. She noticed the distance, the careful steps, the way the human always turned when her daughter approached. At first she allowed it, but tonight, with so many eyes watching, she decided to ask. Her voice cut through the hall, calm but powerful. "Human," she said. Every sound faded. The human turned and stepped forward. He bowed low, respectful and steady. "Yes, your majesty." The queen looked at him closely. "You have served with loyalty and care. You have shown respect to my people. Yet there is one thing you have not explained." The hall grew still. "Why," the queen continued, "do you avoid my daughter?" A sharp breath moved through the crowd. The princess froze. The human did not answer right away. He lifted his head slowly. He did not look at the princess. He looked at the queen. "I avoid her," he said carefully, "because I respect her." The words surprised many, but not enough. The queen tilted her head. "Explain." The human took a breath. His voice was calm, but there was weight in it. "Your daughter lives surrounded by walls no one else can see," he said. "Every smile she gives is watched. Every step she takes is judged. People do not see her. They see her title." Murmurs spread. The princess felt her chest tighten. "I am human," he continued. "Where I come from, closeness brings attachment. Attachment brings promises, and promises should not be made lightly." The queen's eyes narrowed slightly. "So you deny her because you fear consequences?" she asked. "No," he said. "I step back because I see her loneliness." Silence fell again, deeper this time. "She deserves someone who can walk beside her without limits," he said. "Someone who can share her burden, not add to it. I cannot give her freedom. I cannot give her a simple life. And I will not pretend I can." The court was stunned. No one had ever spoken of the princess like this, not as a prize, not as a symbol, but as a person. The queen did not speak. The princess felt her eyes burn. She looked down, hiding her expression. "I do not avoid her out of lack," the human added. "I avoid her because I know how deeply humans feel, and I know how painful it is to care when the path ahead is already decided." A long moment passed. Then the queen spoke again, more quietly. "You believe distance is kindness?" "Yes," he answered. "Sometimes." The queen studied him. She did not show anger. She did not smile. "You may step back," she said. The gathering slowly returned to motion, but the energy had changed. Conversations resumed in whispers. Eyes followed the human as he returned to his place. The princess did not look at him again that night. Later, alone in her chamber, she sat by the window, staring at the stars. His words echoed in her mind. For the first time, someone had named what she felt but never said aloud: loneliness. Not because she lacked people, but because no one saw her choice. In another wing of the palace, the queen stood alone. She looked at her reflection in the tall glass wall and remembered her own youth, the friendships she never chose, the love she never explored, the crown that came before desire. For the first time in many years, doubt touched her heart. The human, unaware of the storm he had started, sat quietly in his quarters. He knew he had crossed an invisible line, but he did not regret it. Truth, he believed, was a form of respect. Outside, the palace lights dimmed. Nothing had changed. Morning light spread softly across the palace, touching the tall walls and quiet halls. The events of the night before had not been announced, but everyone felt the change. Guards spoke less. Servants moved carefully. The palace felt like it was holding its breath. The human woke early, as he always did. He followed his routine, reviewed his work, and prepared to leave his quarters. He did not know what would come next. He only knew that his words had been honest, and honesty sometimes carried a cost. Before he reached the outer corridor, a royal attendant stopped him. "The queen requests your presence," the attendant said calmly. The human nodded. He did not show fear, but his steps were slow as he followed. The corridors seemed longer than before. Inside the queen's private chamber, the air was quiet and warm. The queen stood near a large window, her back turned. When the human entered, she did not look at him right away. "You spoke freely last night," she said at last. "Yes, your majesty," he replied. "I did." "Most would have chosen silence," she said, "or ambition." He remained still. "I chose truth." The queen turned. Her expression was not cold nor angry, it was thoughtful. "Tell me," she said, "did you think of the consequences?" "Yes," he answered, "and I accepted them." She studied him. "You risked your position, your safety." "I did," he said simply. The queen walked slowly, her long robe moving without sound. "You spoke of loneliness," she said. "Do you believe my daughter is unhappy?" The human hesitated, then nodded once. "I believe she is unseen." The queen closed her eyes for a brief moment. When she opened them, they held something softer. "I was once unseen too," she said. "Before the crown." She gestured for him to sit, but he remained standing. She did not insist. "You see," she continued, "this empire survived because I placed duty above feeling. I believed sacrifice was strength." "And it is," the human said carefully. "But strength without choice becomes a cage." The queen did not argue. "You love deeply," she said. "Humans are known for that." "Yes," he replied, "and because of that we learn when to step back." A long silence followed. "Leave me," the queen said at last. "I must speak with my daughter." The human bowed and left. The princess was in the garden when her mother found her. She sat beside a pool of glowing water, watching small creatures swim beneath the surface. She did not turn when the queen approached. "You heard his words," the queen said. "Yes," the princess replied quietly. "And what did you hear?" The princess took a breath. "That someone finally saw me." The queen's chest tightened. "You have everything," the queen said. "Education, power, protection." "Yes," the princess said, "but none of it is mine." The queen sat beside her. That alone was rare. "Did you wish him closer?" the queen asked. The princess looked down. "I wished for honesty, nothing more." The queen nodded slowly. "I thought control would keep you safe," she said. "But safety without freedom is not peace." They sat together, mother and daughter, not as ruler and heir, but as two souls bound by expectation. That evening, the queen called a public assembly. The hall filled again, but this time the mood was different. The queen stood tall, her voice steady. "I spoke with the human," she said, "and with my daughter." Eyes turned toward the princess, who stood calm and composed. "I have ruled with certainty," the queen continued. "But certainty can blind even the wise." She looked at the human. "You place my daughter's well-being above your desire," she said, "above your gain." The hall was silent. "For that," the queen said, "you have my respect." A soft murmur spread. "My daughter will no longer be treated as a symbol," the queen declared. "She will choose her own path." The princess felt her breath catch. The queen turned to her. "You are free to decide who you walk beside." The human did not move. He did not speak. Later, in a quiet corridor, the princess found him. "I wanted to thank you," she said. He bowed slightly. "You owe me nothing." "You gave me something," she said, "without taking anything." He met her eyes then fully for the first time. "I hope," he said gently, "that whatever you choose brings you peace." She smiled. Not the practiced smile of royalty, but a real one. "I believe," she said, "that peace begins with choice." They parted without promise. From a balcony above, the queen watched them go their separate ways. She felt something unfamiliar but welcome. Relief. The stars outside the palace burned bright. The empire stood the same. The days following the queen's announcement passed quietly, but the air in the palace had changed. No one openly spoke of the human or the princess, yet whispers followed their steps. There was a tension that was not fear, nor disrespect, but a deep curiosity that spread like slow fire. Everyone wanted to see what the choice of freedom would bring. The princess moved differently now. She walked through the halls with her head held high, but there was a softness in her eyes that had not been there before. It was not confidence alone that had changed her. It was the feeling of being seen, truly seen, for the first time in her life. People stopped staring at her title and began noticing her gestures, her smile, her laughter. She still had obligations, still had lessons in diplomacy, still had advisors whispering in her ear. But she carried herself with a quiet light that made the court notice the woman, not the princess. The human continued his work, repairing and advising, yet he sensed the subtle changes around him. The palace no longer felt as heavy. His steps were lighter, though the weight of his own responsibility remained. He watched the princess from a distance sometimes, not out of desire, but because he needed to ensure that she had space to walk freely without pressure. The truth of their connection was delicate, something that had to be handled with care. One morning, the human received an unexpected message. The queen requested his presence once again, not in public but in her private chambers. The halls were quieter than usual as he approached. Guards bowed and stepped aside, watching him carefully, yet none spoke. The human entered the room and found the queen standing near her window, hands folded, her gaze distant. "You have caused a ripple," she said without turning. "Not in the court, not in the halls, but in my daughter," the human bowed. "I did not mean to, your majesty. I only spoke what I saw." The queen finally turned to face him. Her eyes were steady, but there was something soft in them now, a hint of understanding that had been absent before. "What you said," she continued, "has opened her eyes to something she never had, a choice. But freedom can be frightening." "I understand," the human said. "Freedom is heavy just like duty. Sometimes the heaviest burdens are unseen." The queen studied him for a long moment. "You have wisdom beyond your years," she said finally. "Not every human could have spoken like you. Most would have spoken of ambition or flattery. Most would have sought reward. You sought only truth." He inclined his head. "Truth is the most respectful thing we can give someone." The queen walked slowly to a chair and gestured for him to sit. Sit then, I want to speak freely. The human obeyed. He seated himself, hands resting calmly on his knees, eyes watching her carefully. Tell me, the queen said, why do you respect her so much that you avoid her? Not just because of her position, but because of her as a person. He paused. The question was simple, but the answer required honesty. Because she deserves someone who sees her without filters, without expectations, he said. Someone who does not treat her as a symbol or a title. And because I cannot be that person, I must step back. True respect is knowing your limits. The queen was silent for a long time. Outside the window, the alien sun rose higher, casting gold across the courtyard below. You know, she said finally, I once feared my daughter would never find someone who could see her, truly see her, the way you do. I thought it my duty to guide every choice for her, to protect her from pain. But perhaps protection is not always the highest form of care. I believe it is not, the human said softly. Protection without choice is imprisonment. Even the strongest walls cannot shield the heart from longing or loneliness. The queen looked at him. You speak like a philosopher, yet your words are simple. He gave a small nod. Simplicity is clarity. Complicated words often hide fear. The queen studied him and finally smiled faintly. Perhaps you are the first human to understand the weight of this palace and the burden of this crown without wishing to own it. He looked away briefly, then back. I do not seek to own anything. I only seek to see and to understand. She studied him another long moment, then said, You have done more than I expected. My daughter is happier than I have ever seen her. She moves with freedom in her mind, though she still walks within these walls, and for that I owe you gratitude. The human bowed his head. Your Majesty honors me more than I deserve. The queen nodded, then changed the topic. But you have also made her curious about you. I know she watches you from afar, though she does not speak of it. He nodded. I have noticed her curiosity, yes, but I have not encouraged it. I believe curiosity must bloom naturally, not forced by proximity. The queen smiled softly. You are patient. She will learn from your example, perhaps more than from any lesson I could teach. After the private meeting, the human returned to his work. He continued repairing systems, advising scholars, and observing the palace, but he felt a subtle difference. There was less tension, less expectation, and more room for humanity. Meanwhile, the princess began to explore small freedoms. She spent time in the gardens, reading privately and speaking openly with trusted attendants. She asked questions she had never asked before. She wandered the halls without formal escort, observing people, watching their movements and learning how they lived outside her role. Each day, she felt more alive, more herself. One afternoon, as she walked near the human's work area, she paused. He was repairing a delicate device used for communication between planets. She watched silently, not wanting to interrupt but drawn by a need she could not yet name. He noticed her presence but did not look up immediately. He continued his work, hands steady and precise. Finally, he glanced at her. Good afternoon, Your Highness, he said calmly. Good afternoon, she replied, voice soft but confident. She took a step closer. May I ask you something? Of course, he said. She hesitated. Do you avoid me because you dislike me? He shook his head slowly. No, I avoid you because I respect you, because I want you to have freedom, choice, and peace. I do not wish to interfere with your life or make it heavier than it already is. She looked at him for a long time, absorbing his words. No one has ever spoken to me like that, she admitted. Not my tutors, not my advisors, not even my mother until recently. They always spoke about duty, expectations, and protocol. You spoke about me. He gave a small, careful nod. Because you deserve it. Every person deserves to be seen. She smiled faintly, a mixture of relief and curiosity. I think I want to know more about the world you come from, about your people, about how you think. I would be glad to share, he said, but slowly. There is no need to rush. Understanding grows with time. Over the next few weeks, their interactions remained cautious, respectful, and honest. They shared quiet moments in the garden, walked together along corridors with no audience, and spoke about simple things: music, stories, stars, and distant lands. Each conversation built trust, each shared smile strengthened connection. The princess began to realize that freedom did not have to be lonely. She could choose who she spent time with, and some choices could bring joy instead of burden. The queen watched from a distance. She observed the small moments between the human and her daughter, the polite gestures, the quiet smiles, the laughter that felt natural and unforced. She felt a mixture of pride and relief. For the first time, she did not have to control every step her daughter took. She had placed her in the hands of truth and honesty, and it had created a space for growth, understanding, and hope. One evening, the princess found herself standing under a canopy of stars. The human was beside her, silent, yet present. She looked at him, and for the first time she felt no pressure, no expectation, only gratitude. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for seeing me, for letting me be myself." He looked at her, his expression calm and steady. "You are the one who chose to see yourself truly. I only reflected what was already there." The princess smiled, a real, full smile. "Perhaps," she said softly, "but it feels like I can finally breathe." The human nodded. "Then you are free." And for the first time, the palace felt lighter. The princess walked with her head held high, her heart open, and her mind alive with the possibilities of choice. The human remained nearby, steady and patient, knowing that respect, honesty, and understanding had created something far more valuable than titles, crowns, or duty, a connection built on truth. The stars above shone brighter than ever, and somewhere in their quiet, shared understanding, anew the palace awoke in a quiet rhythm of its own. The morning sun spilled over the crystalline towers, glinting against walls polished to a perfect sheen. Inside, life moved with the usual precision, but there was a difference, subtle but unmistakable. The air was lighter, the halls quieter, and the people calmer. Rumors and whispers still existed, of course, but now they carried curiosity and wonder rather than suspicion or tension. The princess had grown accustomed to this subtle freedom. Each day she walked through the corridors and gardens without an escort, studying, learning, and observing. She still wore her royal garments and performed her duties, but something deeper had changed within her. There was a spark of self-determination in her step, a quiet joy that no court rule could contain. She began to smile more freely, laugh when she pleased, and even speak openly to those around her. The human continued his work as always, fixing and advising, quietly observing the world around him. He walked carefully, avoiding unnecessary attention, but his presence had become a comforting constant for the princess. Though their interactions remained polite and respectful, they carried a depth that words alone could not express. He gave her space when needed, and she respected his boundaries. Their understanding grew silently, naturally, like two rivers converging without force. One afternoon, the princess found herself wandering to the palace library, a place she had long ignored. It was vast and filled with knowledge collected from countless worlds. She enjoyed reading, but she had never dared to venture alone. Today she walked confidently through the tall shelves, touching spines, opening books, and letting curiosity guide her. To her surprise, she saw the human seated at a large table, studying a complex star map. He looked up as she approached, and a small smile appeared on his face. "Your Highness," he said, his voice calm but warm, "I did not expect you here." "I wanted to learn something new," she replied, "and I thought you might help me." He nodded. "I would be glad to." For the next hour, they studied the stars together. He explained the constellations of his home planet, the paths of distant ships, and the principles of interstellar navigation. She listened intently, asking questions that showed her growing understanding and curiosity. It was a simple moment, yet it carried an unspoken weight, a sense of trust and companionship that neither had experienced before. After some time, the princess leaned back and sighed. I never knew the stars could feel so alive, she admitted. Back home, I thought they were just lights, distant and cold. Now I see they have stories, histories, and secrets. The human nodded. Every star has a story just as every person does. Some are bright and obvious, others hidden until you look closely. She looked at him, studying his calm, steady expression. "And what is your story?" she asked quietly. He paused, then answered simply. "I am a human who seeks understanding, who values honesty, and who respects those I care for. Beyond that, my story is still being written." She smiled faintly. "Perhaps we are writing parts of each other's stories then." He gave a small nod, a gesture that carried more meaning than words could convey. As the days passed, their shared moments became more frequent. They walked through gardens, studied maps, and spoke about worlds both near and far. The palace court noticed the subtle connection growing between them. Nobles and attendants whispered, speculated, and observed, but none could fully understand it. It was not a matter of romance, politics, or ambition. It was respect, understanding, and genuine care, an unusual bond in any world, human or alien. The queen watched these developments closely. She did not interfere, but she observed with careful attention. Her daughter was no longer just a princess, constrained by duty. She was growing into a person who could think for herself, make choices, and experience life in a way the queen had never imagined possible. One evening, the queen summoned both her daughter and the human. She chose a quiet garden illuminated by soft alien lights that glowed like fireflies. The princess walked with calm confidence, and the human followed, hands at his sides, posture straight but relaxed. "My daughter," the queen began, "you have learned much in recent days. You have discovered choice, responsibility, and understanding, but there is something else I wish to say." The princess turned her eyes toward her mother. "Yes, mother." The queen looked at the human briefly, then back at her daughter. "You have seen him clearly. He has shown respect, honesty, and care without expectation. That is rare in any world." The human inclined his head respectfully. "Your Majesty honors me far too much." The queen shook her head. "No, I honor what is true. I honor the way he has treated you. I see now that protection is not always giving orders or restricting freedom. True protection is respect, honesty, and understanding." The princess felt a warmth in her chest. "Thank you, mother," she said softly, "for trusting me with choice." The queen's eyes softened. "And I thank you both for teaching me that even a queen can learn. A heart cannot be protected with rules alone. Freedom is the greatest gift I can offer." The human's gaze shifted from the queen to the princess. "You have been brave," he said. "Not because of position, but because you sought truth and understanding. That is a strength few possess." The princess looked at him and smiled. "You made it easy to see, though I know it was not your duty to do so." He gave a small nod. "Sometimes the right thing is also the hardest thing." The queen finally spoke again, her voice gentle. "I release you, my daughter. Free to choose, free to walk, free to learn, and free to live as yourself. And I release you, human, from fear or obligation. Your role was never to change her life, but to honor it. You have done that with honesty and integrity." The garden was quiet, save for the soft hum of alien lights and distant calls of nocturnal creatures. The moment was profound, though simple. No speeches, no celebration, no ceremony, just truth, respect, and understanding. The princess turned to the human. "I hope you will remain in my world," she said, "not because I command it, but because I wish it." He studied her, his calm eyes reflecting her sincerity. "I will remain," he said quietly, "as a friend, as an advisor, and as someone who respects you. Nothing more unless you choose otherwise." She smiled, a gentle curve that expressed gratitude, relief, and hope all at once. "Then let us learn together," she said. And so they walked side by side, slowly, carefully, through the quiet garden. Each step was a promise, not of love bound by rules or titles, but of mutual respect, understanding, and the freedom to choose. In the palace, The queen watched her daughter with a sense of pride and peace she had not known for decades. Her child was no longer confined by the weight of expectation alone. She was living, breathing, and making choices. And in that freedom, there was beauty, hope, and the quiet magic of a connection forged through truth. Weeks turned into months, and the bond between the human and the princess strengthened naturally. The court began to accept the subtle changes, and rumors faded into quiet observation. The palace no longer felt tense or rigid. It thrummed with life in small, meaningful ways. The princess spoke openly, laughed freely, and carried herself with confidence tempered by humility. The human worked with steady hands and patient heart, teaching, guiding, and quietly supporting the life that had opened before him. One evening, standing on a balcony overlooking the palace grounds, the princess spoke to him softly. "I never thought freedom could feel this way," she said. "Not frightening, not lonely, but alive." He looked out at the same horizon, the twin moons casting silver light over the gardens. "Freedom is a gift," he said, "and you have earned it. You are alive, not because of rules or expectations, but because you have chosen to see and understand your world and yourself." She turned to him, eyes bright with gratitude and wonder. "Then perhaps our stories are beginning together," she said. He nodded, a quiet acknowledgement of the truth in her words. "Perhaps they are," he said softly. The queen observed from her chamber, her heart light. The palace had changed, subtly but completely. Truth and respect had replaced expectation and obligation. And in that quiet transformation, a new life, a new hope, and a new understanding had blossomed, one built on freedom, honesty, and choice. The stars above glimmered, indifferent yet eternal, as if acknowledging the quiet triumph of human honesty, alien wisdom, and the bond between two souls who had learned to respect each other fully. In the palace that had once felt heavy with duty, life now moved with gentle strength, and every being, royal, human, and alien alike, felt the possibilities of a future shaped by understanding, choice, and quiet courage. And so the princess walked freely. The human remained by her side with steady patience, and the queen smiled, knowing that her daughter's life was now truly her own, free, bright, and alive. The story ended not with fireworks or grand declarations, but with quiet hope, mutual respect, and the unspoken promise that truth and honesty were always stronger than fear or expectation. The world beyond the palace awaited, vast and unknown, but together or apart, they were ready to face it with courage, wisdom, and freedom.